Saw dudes, I play Star Citizen. I know, ew, what the heck man? Well, it does fall in line with the other games I play like Warframe and Destiny being in space and all that. That's besides the point. Today, I want to examine the newly announced Drake Ironclad and Ironclad Assault, concept ships that were just revealed at the Invictus Launch Week event of 2024. Let's get started. On screen, you'll see the specs. Both ships, the Ironclad and Ironclad Assault, come with a size 3 quantum drive, 2 size 3 quantum fuel tanks, 2 size 3 fuel tanks, 4 size 3 shield generators, and 1 size 3 radar. Okay, let's begin by examining the base Ironclad. This ship is classified as an armored hauler, and it does fit the bill since it carries a massive 1,536 SCU of cargo. This dwarfs the 576 SCU seen on the Caterpillar, but does bridge the gap between the hull series quite well. You'll notice on the interior cross-section that the base variant can store Drake mules near the back of the cargo bay, something that is nice to have if you are unloading or just want to have small ground vehicles at the ready. Keep in mind though that the base Ironclad cannot fit tanks, since the front entrance does not have enough clearance. The Ironclad comes with 1 size 5 man turret, 2 size 3 remote turrets, 1 size 3 manned, and 1 size 2 interior remote turret to defend the interior of the cargo bay. This ship has pretty decent firepower, but again, it's not really meant to be in combat all that much. The 2 size 3 remote turrets and 1 size 3 manned are great, but against a couple of medium fighters, you'll be a sitting duck. That's beside the point though. One of the biggest appeals of this version is the retractable roof and 3 size 2 tractor beams. You can probably have some crazy cargo loading shenanigans with the two combined. Having the roof open allows you to store snub fighters and unleash a small swarm. The tractor beams can be used to bring in cargo or other items floating around in space. Now let's cover what I personally think is the main attraction, the Ironclad Assault. This is the combat-oriented version and trades some SCU space for a full-service garage, which is capable of, quote, refueling, rearming, and even fabricating new components for ground vehicles. So instead of 1,536 SCU, this variant can carry 1,152 SCU. This number is still very impressive. That reduced SCU carrying capacity is put to good use though, since you can now load tanks through the front entrance of the cargo bay. This ship is truly meant to bring forces en masse, so it can carry a ton of firepower. However, I do want to point out that the roof doesn't seem to retract, unlike the base version. Furthermore, it seems to lack the tractor beams, meaning it is fully dedicated to its heavy dropship role. This isn't stated in the notes, but it is something that you might want to consider, just in case CIG doesn't mention it. Let's take a look at the armaments for a second, then talk about the dropship part. When looking at the assault variant, we have 1 size 5 man turret, 2 size 3 remote quad turrets, 2 size 3 remote turrets, 1 size 3 man turret, and the final size 2 remote turret for the interior space. It wouldn't be too far off to say that this space brick is armed to the teeth. You'll notice that in this concept art we have 4 front-facing turrets, which can provide a ridiculous amount of cover fire when dropping ground vehicles for combat. To say this would terrorize a battlefield is an understatement. Back to the dropship discussion. The concept art lists 34 jump seats, which is great for transporting troops in addition to the 4 Nova tanks. So you will essentially have a mobile base that is great for transporting the homies and their violent toys. When you aren't using this ship to terrorize anyone, you have 1100 SCU to make use of. You can use the cargo bay for other vehicles, maybe a snub if you wanted to squeeze it through the front loading bay, or just perform cargo running activities. At this point, the ship starts to look like an amazing all-rounder that gets better with friends. Now, let's examine the competition. The base Ironclad is competing against the C2 Hercules and the Assault against the M2 Hercules. Currently, the base Ironclad is valued at 400 USD, but it is a concept ship and will likely go up in price in the future. The C2 is valued at 400 as well, but is in an interesting position. It carries 672 SCU of cargo, compared to the 1,536 that the Caterpillar does. The C2 does have some pilot-controlled weaponry and a front and back loading ramp, but it does not have the same functionality as the Ironclad, and in my eyes, gets a bit outshined. The 3 size 2 tractor beams on the Ironclad seem to be on rails, which can assist with loading up cargo. It just seems like a perfect multi-crew ship for almost anything and sits at the same price point for the time being. Okay, what about the M2 and Ironclad Assault? Currently, the M2 during ILW 2024 is valued at 520 USD, with the Angry Caterpillar being priced at 525 USD. That $5 jump makes all the difference in my eyes. The M2 carries 468 SCU of cargo, which is feeble compared to the 1100 seen in the Assault variant of the Ironclad. What's more is the fact that the Ironclad Assault can take 4 tanks in its bay. The M2 and C2, by extension, can only carry 2 at a time. Keep in mind though that the Hercules series does feature double ramps, meaning deployment time is much faster. Still though, the Assault version can make up for this, since the insane firepower of the turrets can repel forces for enough time to offload reinforcements. You will also need to consider the fact that the Ironclad comes with the ability to support ground vehicles. You can repair, rearm, and refuel vehicles, and this is massive for extended combat. If you don't want to keep running back and forth to deliver vehicles and would rather recycle them, the Ironclad is a great choice. Alright, so then what about space combat, when you aren't in the middle of dropping a tank on your opposition's head? I find it hard to believe that an M2 with its lower turret count could beat an Ironclad. The thing though, is armor isn't in the game yet, and both ships are slated to get armor in the future. The level though is up for debate. Drake isn't known for having amazing plating, so I'm willing to concede a couple of points in that regard. Back to the base variant of the Ironclad. The retractable roof makes fighting this thing akin to opening a Pandora's box. If a C2 wanted to pull up, which let's be honest would be highly unlikely, I am sure that it would get swept. Reason being is that the amount of cargo space plus the retractable roof would allow for rapid deployment of small fighters or snubs. If you really wanted to be a pain, you could stash away an arrow too. Hell, try cramming in as many Mirai Furies as possible. Now let's get to the parts that will annoy some people. Despite the command module being detachable, it does sit at the left of the ship near the back. It's not in the best spot in terms of visibility, meaning your view of the surrounding environment won't be complete. I think this was a pretty interesting move from CIG. On one hand, this is the same deal with the Caterpillar. However, the bridge of the Caterpillar sits in an amazing spot for general visibility. I would have rather had the command module posted up there, but at this point, it's a nitpicking thing. I also think that both variants will fly like bricks. I mean, look at them. They look great in their own stripped down Drake fashion, but at the same time, they are big and bulky. The Hercules series are well known for their maneuverability despite their size, which is a major advantage for them. Now let's talk about the dropship issue. The Assault variant only has one main exit, and as you'll see, it's only wide enough for one tank to fit through. The offloading on ground vehicles will be slow in comparison to that of the Hercules series, since there's only one exit/entry point. That's not a deal breaker, but it is something you should consider. This is especially true based on the context of your troop delivery. Are you willing to fight it out to deliver more reinforcements? Or do you want in and out action at the cost of smaller reinforcement numbers? I don't think either answer is wrong or right, it just comes down to your preference or the way you plan to tackle combat operations. If you're going to use the ship to transport forces, I would avoid landing directly in a hot zone. Land it just outside, and use the turrets to keep enemies at bay. It seems like the turrets have good front coverage and side coverage, so you're encouraged to keep it front facing. It'll be hard to keep the landing brief, but as long as you have some form of support, you should be alright. So, should you make the jump from a skinny Caterpillar to a Caterpillar? I think the jump to either is worth it. Just weigh your options. If you're really into cargo hauling and just a little combat, the base Ironclad is right up your alley. If you want to pile the hurt, then go for the Assault. Personally, I will be chasing the Assault variant since the combat capabilities are too good to pass up for me. I love providing support and carrying homies from planet to planet in discount Helldivers. Also, the Assault can serve as a mobile base of operations. I love the look of the ship too, but I know that might be a point of contention. As a reminder, these ships are earnable in-game later on, so don't feel pressured to spend your money now if you don't want to. So, what do you think? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. As always, thank you for watching and happy farming. Stay safe.